Railroads have been around for nearly 200 years. In that time, thousands of lines have been built, rebuilt, opened, closed, rerouted, streamlined, upgraded, connected. The rail system reaches out, adapts. It serves today's customers, communities, and markets, and prepares for those ahead. It is not easy. Railroads are one of the most capital-intensive industries. Every infrastructure change must be efficient, economical, and long-lasting. So it's rare that new rail lines are built from scratch. Norfolk Southern, however, did just that, beginning in 2001. This is the story of the Shelocta line and how one railroad made it happen. Why did Norfolk Southern build the 5.3-mile Shelocta line?
Well, it was really a collaborative effort between us and the customer really asking us how we could increase our rail deliveries. And we had a route that was circuitous going in there, and we thought by building a new line that would not only increase the deliveries but increase efficiencies for us and open up more mining areas for Keystone.
So all in all, it was an over a 6-year project. Developing the conceptual design and estimates for the project took about 1 year. Once we moved to the final design and permitting phase, that process took about 3.5 years. During that time, obviously costs for different aspects of the project naturally rose. We then moved into the bidding and construction phase of the project, which took the remaining 1.5 years. So by the time we got ready to go to construction, the project cost considerably more than we'd initially anticipated.
The design process began with the recognition that the new rail line must be safe, efficient, and economical. Engineers created new routing that would shave 49 miles from the existing route. That's good for the customer. At the same time, they worked to minimize grading, intersections with streams and roads, and landowner issues. That's good for communities. And with a level terrain, train payloads could be increased, while locomotive and fuel use could be reduced. That's good for the environment. Those were non-negotiable requirements, and as such were factored into the cost estimates. With cost estimates and designs in hand, Norfolk Southern began acquiring the needed land, 440 acres, from 20 property owners. It also began acquiring federal, state, and local authorizations. Approval would be needed from the Surface Transportation Board. That would require an environmental assessment to ensure that the plan met the federal requirements of the National Environmental Protection Act and the Clean Water Act, and the state requirements of the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. While the freight transportation benefits of the project were obvious, other factors would significantly increase the project scope. For example, the plan took into account the project's impact on nearby streams and wetlands and their wildlife. Some 50 culverts would have to be built.
From an engineering standpoint, no two culverts are the same. Each culvert has to be custom designed and constructed based on the amount of water flow that's anticipated at that location. Of course, the addition of these 50 custom designed structures over and above what we originally anticipated the plan to be figured a lot of extra money in the final project cost.
As the construction phase began, still more complications were in store. Clearing and grading were challenging. Much of the grading involved making fairly large cuts in the existing hillside to carve out a flat path for the track bed. A total of 1.4 million cubic yards of soil had to be moved. In an ideal world, this material would be used to level other parts of the route. But in this case, more than 3/4 of that material had to be disposed of. 2 sites at each end of the corridor were available as fill sites for waste disposal. Even so, this was no small task. Poor site access through just 2 public roads slowed grading. Some landowners would not allow construction equipment to pass. The grading crew had to haul 14,000 truckloads of dirt up and down a narrow 5-mile corridor to reach disposal sites. Norfolk Southern anticipated soil problems by drilling core samples along the length of the route.
During the excavation, we ran into many layers of discontinuous strata. Basically, we had some sandstone, we had some soil, we had a material called claystone. Claystone was a big problem we've had on this job. Claystone is hard when it's first excavated, but it's when it's exposed to weathering, it deteriorates very quickly. And in the cuts on the hillsides, this deterioration could cause a slope failure. In order to protect this claystone layer, we installed a slope protection system on it. This basically consisted of drilling in some anchors and grouting them, putting a composite draining system over the surface of the cut, some mesh, covering it with a layer of shotcrete. This took that unstable material and basically made it into a stable retaining wall.
The final plan called for 2 new bridges along the corridor so that the track would not have to cross surface streets. One new crossing, however, would be unavoidable. In designing it, Norfolk Southern factored in the frequency and type of vehicle traffic and other public safety considerations.
While the roadbed itself had presented plenty of obstacles, the installation of the track itself was relatively straightforward. In May 2005, we completed the grading for the project and immediately began the track construction. That approximate 2-month process was one of the shortest pieces of the whole project that we undertook.
The track construction was completed in August 2006. The Shelocta corridor was finally in service. The statistics would tell the story. Some 14,000 truckloads of dirt had been moved, 6,304 linear feet of culverts installed, 34,660 tons of ballast spread, and 17,000 ties used to install 57,000 linear feet of rail. For meeting the challenges effectively, from design through construction, the project would earn the Hay Award for Excellence in Railway Engineering. But the most important story is one of customer service.
Yeah, we almost doubled the deliveries that we take into the Keystone generating plant. It gives us great opportunity for the future because they still burn more coal at that plant than we're delivering. Efficiencies are being used that are both good for Norfolk Southern and for Keystone. And the environment benefits from reduced emissions from both the railroad and the reduction of the number of trucks on the road.
The Shelocta Line story is a behind-the-scenes look at building a new railroad from scratch in the 21st century. It isn't easy, inexpensive, or fast. Many constituents must be satisfied. The good news? Railroads can envision it and get it done. Railroads bring the benefits of competitive, clean, fuel-efficient transportation to shippers and communities. That's a real advantage for America.